I'm on a quest to run a marathon on every continent on the planet. When I got to Mongolia, I finally recognized the value of an important life lesson that a successful entrepreneur told me. I'll tell you about that later. One of the first things I noticed when I got to Mongolia was how difficult it was to even understand the language. I mean, check it out. Can you make any sense of that? So I hired a local guide, Tushig, to help me find 26.2 miles to run. Immediately after we got started, we ran into a problem. The guide, who I asked to find a path for me, found a small park that he expected me to go in endless loops on, but what I'm looking for is a way to experience the city. That's when Tushig offered to ride on ahead until we figured out where I was going to run. Bike. All right, officially starting the Asian Marathon right now.
Get the camera first.
Oh, yeah. It was exciting, but everyone has fun starting something new, right? I kept telling Tushig, go on ahead, I got this, or fall back behind, I got this, I can do it on my own, but he kept sticking with me, making sure I was okay. I quickly ran out of sidewalk and was forced to run on the shoulder of a busy, active street. How could I run a marathon, 26.2 miles in the heat, with all that traffic by my side? I kept at it anyway. Eventually, my tour guide Tushig persuaded the guard of a local street to let me just run it all by myself. It was completely unused street that they planned to use for an upcoming airport.
This road is empty, beautiful, and just super easy to run. Tushig, do you think anyone has ever run this road before?
No.
Back home in San Francisco, I do a podcast where I interview entrepreneurs about how they built their businesses. I interviewed Sean Burns, the founder I mentioned earlier. He told me how he launched Flurry, his analytics startup, and sold it to Yahoo. I see a LinkedIn post saying that you sold for about $300 million. I see a TechCrunch post saying that you sold for $200 million. What's the number?
Oh, they don't let me tell it. It was part of the deal. It's higher than all of those, though, if that helps you.
Wow, okay. I wanted to understand how he did it. I looked at my producer's notes about what Sean did and what he said was most important for succeeding. He said persistence. I thought it was such generic advice that I just wanted to ignore it completely until this run.
15 miles into the marathon here in Mongolia. I'm smiling now as I talk, but it's really painful. I am not having as easy a time as I was when we started out in mile 1.
After a few miles, a guard told us that we weren't allowed to be on the road. I was so bummed. At that point, I'd already run about 15 miles. I was exhausted, and I liked the street. It let me see out into Mongolian neighborhoods. It let me run relatively at ease, and I was too exhausted to go try and find something else. I literally thought of Sean at that point. Remember flip phones? I found some in a Mongolian market. Sean's company made apps for those super basic phones, and he did really well. Then, Steve Jobs made a huge announcement.
And we are calling it iPhone. Today, Apple is going to reinvent the phone.
After the iPhone, nobody bought those old flip phones anymore. Sean was in trouble. His company was insolvent 3 times because of world changes like that, but he persisted. Sean ended up recognizing that all the people who are making apps for iPhones and eventually Android phones, they'd all want to know who was using their apps. Were they using it at all? What were they doing on their apps? And Sean recognized that he could create analytics software that would allow them to get that insight. That analytics approach is what built his company up so big that he was able to sell it to Yahoo for hundreds of millions of dollars. He persisted. I persisted too.
That lens is so dirty. So since we can't go on the road, we're gonna take a turn and go and see what happens off-road.
I went off-road and eventually discovered this road with cows. It was unreal. And across the way, locals were literally lassoing wild horses. Every January when I go out on my usual runs, I see new runners with their pristine clothes, cute little shoes. They're determined. This is the year they're actually gonna stick with their running workout. And by February, they're gone. The road is quiet again. And they're gone because it's too difficult. It's too difficult to keep going when things are hard. It's too difficult to keep going when it's not so fun anymore. I believe suffering is important. If it's for a meaningful goal, I believe it's important. Bring it on. And so I persisted on this run.
I'm really tired. 5 more miles. And I'm exhausted already. Gotta keep pushing myself.
The last 5 miles were the hardest. The town was too small for me to keep running through, and I was back in traffic. It was dusty. I was tired. I wanted to stop in the worst way, but persisting despite pain is important and worth it.
We did it! Asia, done. Just finished the marathon in Mongolia.
Look at my smile when the whole thing was over. Isn't it bigger than the one that you saw at the start of the run? Before all that pain? I don't pursue happiness. I'm willing to suffer and persist. I think happiness is a byproduct of doing and pursuing something meaningful. I want to thank Tushig, my Mongolian guide and now friend, who every time I said, "Go on, I got this," kept sticking with me and making sure that I was safe in his home country. And a big thank you to you for watching. If you like this video, hit the like button or send me a big high five, and subscribe if you want to see me pursue my goal of running a marathon on every continent and suffering. Yeah, suffering through a big part of it.